Well, a question that I have that you can just help me out with, I'm confirming on, was for example, the vertical teaming, and the registration for this is open by invitation only. So it sounds like we're identifying folks in the district who have some specific skills, and we're inviting them to kind of put their hands together with others on a common theme or project. Is that accurate?
Correct. So vertical teaming, our Leadership Institute, and then some of our direct instruction leadership classes are by invitation. And so our content coordinators, coaches, and principals recommend our teacher leaders that can come and dive into that work for the week. And so sometimes those are offered as a stipend or for credit. So a lot of times some of our teacher leaders maybe at the top where they're not needing district credit because they sign up for so many different things, or they've already received advanced degrees, so we can honor some of their work with a stipend too.
And if it's a tough summer for me and I just can't accept the invitation, maybe you can get back to me another year. There's no pressure on people to perform necessarily.
Right, so our coordinators sent out invitations just before spring break, and most people know, if they've been in our system for a while, that it's usually that week right after Memorial Day. So many of them don't plan a vacation because they want to come and they really enjoy that work. But those RSVPs are coming in, and if they can't do it this year, we sure hope that they're a teacher leader, either as a department chair or content leader on many of our other committees. And we don't know. Uninvite them for the next year. That's what you meant, Roger.
Mr. Reed.
Amy, about how many of our teachers do you expect to participate in vertical teaming in those activities?
We usually have up to 200 teachers for vertical teaming, and then for Leadership Institute, most buildings bring between 6 and 10. So we end up with a couple hundred for that.
Thank you. I asked that question because even though by invitation only, you need to know there are hundreds of teachers who are going to be participating in this. So it's a pretty big umbrella because it's an important activity. So.
Seems like we had 400 cars parked in the west parking lot last summer for a math activity or a training, as I recall. It was impressive. I couldn't find a place to park, so that's what stood out in my mind. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, Amy, you mentioned you had about 800 and some registrants. Mm-hmm. How many of those are individual? How many individual registrants, or are those total registrations in the overall program?
You know, when I looked at the registration, every class had, whether it was 2 or 30, and so that leads me to believe, I think we probably have about 600 people that have, which would be about half of our teachers, that have registered for at least one class. Because an elementary second grade teacher isn't going to necessarily sign up for wheel throwing or vice versa. And so I do think with the variety and the breadth of courses this year that there's probably about half of our teachers that have registered for a class at this point, and I anticipate that number to grow. And then there are people that love learning during the summer. And so when they see 3 new classes for elementary teachers, they will want to take all 3 of those classes. So there's a mix of both. But looking at, like I said, the list of each class and how many people are registered, I think we're hitting a wider audience of our teachers this summer.
Well, it would be interesting to know the number as individuals that participate in the program and the number of overall registrants, and put that into context with what we actually had last year, and look at that, because I know that there are multiple registrations.
Right.
But it would be really interesting to see, and a good indicator, I think, of whether we are expanding the PD or we're improving it for the same people that partake each year.
Right, so we're able to get those numbers, and we'll definitely do that. In the fall is usually when we bring the reports, and so we're able to break that out, if that's helpful, from last year to this year.
Good.
Dr. Richard?
Oh, just a return to vertical teaming, because would you talk a little bit about the purpose of the vertical teams and that fact that it's an invitation sort of thing?
Yeah, our vertical teams, we've talked about it being our curriculum alignment team or curriculum assessment instruction alignment team. So there are two main things that they do. One is really dig into the standards and expectations within a content area and a grade to say, if we want to have a guaranteed and viable curriculum for every student in second grade, what does that look like paced out across the year? What are our priority standards? That will be a big focus this summer because there are so many standards. You know, what do we really focus on? Then aligning our assessments with that and then giving recommendations or suggestions for best practice around instruction. And then the vertical part comes in where first and second and third grade or fifth to sixth, those transition grades get together and say, how are we doing as a system to make sure that there are gaps and overlaps in our curriculum design? So.
Very good. Well, seeing no other comments or questions, give please all of your colleagues who have put sweat equity into this process our thanks. And
Yes, I sure will.
we're grateful for your investment of time and their investment in advancement. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Early College Academy School of Innovation Plan approval. Chief Academic Officer Dr. Stacy Dattery and Director of Career and Technical Education and Post-Secondary Education, Mr. Paul Francisco, will come up with the goods.
All right. Thank you, President DeWitt, Interim Superintendent Eads, and members of the school board. Tonight, Mr. Paul Francisco and I are very pleased to be able to share with you our plan of innovation for Early College Academy. You may remember on March 23rd, we did share with you during the board work session the three main areas that we would request waivers for in regard to Early College Academy. Tonight we will share them with you again with more depth, however, and with a complete plan accompanied in your board packet that, upon your approval, will be submitted to the State Board of Education. So why are we doing this innovation? Why would we want such a plan? Innovation status will allow our district the flexibility that we will need in this very rigorous but small school setting to hire the very best staff and to remove any potential barriers that could potentially exist that would inhibit our providing the very best support for our students as well as to ensure success. By granting innovation status for this school, we will be able to ensure that the Early College Academy leadership as well as the instructional staff have those core values, the passion, and those common expectations that we need for all of our students to be able to be successful and for us to properly implement the mission, the vision, and the components of Early College Academy. So Paul is now going to share again with you the innovations and the waivers that we are requesting at for our local Board of Education as well as the state board. And so if you'll share a little bit of that, Paul, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Daughtery, and thank you, board, for having me again. And we are applying for the innovation status as the school begins in its first year operation. And once again, we feel that it will empower the school with the flexibility to better execute the school's core mission and vision, and the bottom line, to better meet the needs of students as they begin in the school. We're requesting waivers in three major areas. First, in the areas of human resource management, second, in performance indicators, and finally, with scheduling and calendar. So in human resource management, we included waivers of waiving the Greeley Education Association negotiated agreement, district policies, and state laws that would allow for a broader scope of instructional services to students, and we would begin that right with the hiring process. Some of the additional expectations that we'll talk to teachers about are including additional professional development to support the one-to-one technology rollout, additional student support services and instruction in the student support services that are being offered by Ames Community College, and even extracurricular activities that will be available in the school, knowing that the school will be very, very small. We want to make sure that we hire instructors, that are strongly committed to fully implementing the Early College Academy vision, mission, and performance expectations. So this small team of about 3 to 5 instructors initially will not only be responsible for classroom instruction, but also for establishing and maintaining the school's relationship with Ames Community College. And we want to make sure that they're willing to ensure that students utilize the support services, the one-to-one technology, and that students are able to take advantage of any extracurricular opportunities that will be available to them to make up their high school experience. The objective is that Early College Academy will seamlessly blend the Ames Community College staff and the District 6 staff to create a unique educational program which will become Early College Academy. To accomplish this objective, Early College Academy will hire instructors and other employees under at-will employment terms, utilizing schedule and provisions of the Administrative Professional Technical Salary Schedule. Specific waivers can be found in Appendix A and Appendix B that refer back to the Human Resource Management section. Performance indicator waivers were included to accommodate Early College Academy's innovative mission that includes the ability for a student to simultaneously complete high school and college level work and to ultimately earn both a high school diploma and an associate's degree. As such, an accountability measure that more accurately presents a complete measure of student learning and accomplishment is measuring the percentage of students simultaneously receiving the high school diploma and the associate's degree. We've requested that this measure replace adequate student growth in the school accountability report. And again, you can see more specifically the details of this waiver as it pertains to the state waiver requested in Appendix C. And finally, we are requesting waivers in regard to scheduling and calendar that will overcome barriers that could occur as the program develops. The waiver of both Board of Education policy and state law is to ensure that the principal has the flexibility to change the calendar for Early College Academy to maximize the use of the blended relationship with Ames, while at the same time meeting the requirements for both the high school and the Associate of Arts program. The specific waiver inclusions are outlined in Appendix B, Appendix C, and in Appendix D.
So the next steps upon your approval, so pending that this evening, is that the application that is presented to you this evening, along with theoretical research base for this program, will be submitted to the Colorado Department of Education Choice and Innovation Unit. The state board must approve all state waivers that are requested, whereas the local school board grants the authorization for all local waivers. The Colorado Department of Education will then make any comments and request any changes to the plan to be made prior to the submission to the State Board of Education. And that would be done through the Education Choice and Innovation Unit. Okay? These changes or edits will then be reflected in the final plan, in particular with regard to state waivers, and the approximate timeline they are giving for us on that process is about 3 to 4 weeks. And then upon making those changes, if there are any to be made, the application will then be presented to the State Board of Education at the June 10th, 2015 State Board of Education meeting for state board approval in regard again to those state requested waivers. We do have to go down and make a brief presentation for this plan, but that should go well. So that is what we wanted to share with you before you take this into consideration as an action item, and we would take any questions you may have.
Well, it is an action item, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to that effect, and then perhaps we'll dig up a few questions for you both.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 adopt the resolution to support the Early College Academy School of Innovation plan as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. What questions are there, Dr. Richard?
This is new for us as a district.
Yes, it is.
And so our issues of highly qualified, they still come into play here. So all of our teachers will come into that highly qualified status.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then will this school still put together a school improvement plan? And so that will still come into play.
Yes.
And so the adequate student growth and performance indicators, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
So there are 4 accountability measures for a high school. And so it's academic achievement,
You're right.
academic growth gaps, and then post-secondary and workforce ready is the
Yeah.
category, including several things, right?
Right.
It would be the second one around academic growth, because there's already one on academic growth gaps. We would like to not add on an additional accountability measure, but rather replace one of those 4, and that would, we believe, the best one, so that we are still gaining all of the information we would like to see in an accountability system, a complete system for this school, is to measure the number of students that actually graduate with the desired outcome of both a 4-year high school diploma and a 2-year AA or AS degree. So that would be a replacement rather than an adding on one more accountability measure.
Okay.
Yes.
And then it will be interesting as things go on with only freshman and sophomore and no graduation rate, as-
Correct. There'll be a few years
Years
in
to
there
go.
that
Yeah.
will lag behind. Yes.
One other thing, and it's not so much about the innovation, plan for innovation, but, and I don't expect you to have this at your fingertips, but if we could get some more information about where we stand with actual students that are registered, but also some of the demographics, the male-female breakout, ethnicity, ELL, at risk. If we could get some of that information for this initial year, that gives us a baseline as to students that not only see this as a choice, but we're able to access that choice.
Absolutely.
Great,
Sure,
thank
we'll
you.
get that for you.
Mr. Hensley?
I appreciate everything that you've done. It's been great to watch this develop, and it's an exciting thing for the district and Ames. As I look at the schedule, period 5, block 5 is a 90-minute period as opposed to 60 minutes for everything else. Can you tell me why there's a difference, please?
I apologize, it's an error. In
Okay.
fact, in looking at the schedule, we will anticipate slight changes to the schedule to make sure that students can also make it to practices after school and things like that. So we will be adjusting the schedule, and I'll make that correction when we do make the adjustments to the schedule. Thank you.
If we have that half hour to play with, I would sure like to see a later start time. That's one of my things, and
And one of the things we're
as
looking
late
at,
as possible, please.
one of the things we're looking at is a transportation plan too, of when we can get students there, and some of that will play into the start
Okay.
time.
Thank you very much.
The other thing with that, because we agree, actually, we had it at a later start time, and then the day ended later, and so getting kids to extracurriculars. So I think we'll need to adjust this.
But if you have a half hour in there, that's big.
That could be,
Yes.
that could be helpful. So we'll look at that.
Thank you.
Those are the factors. Yeah,
Mis-
thank you.
Mr. Hall?
Appreciate all your work. Real quick question. What's our enrollment now?
Right now in Infinite Campus, we have 163 students. We have 13 students that are still on our wait list where they haven't turned in their registration materials yet. About 105 of those students are 9th graders, and the rest are 10th graders. Almost all of the students on the wait list would be 10th graders.
So are we going to go ahead and pursue additional to get to the 200?
We do have a wait list open right now, and we will take applications through the wait list. And so, yes, we are continuing to take applications as we go.
And one final question, from the one that I started with. How many names are on your wait list?
Right now, that's the 13 students that they've come to us through our wait list, and we've given them registration materials. They haven't turned in the registration materials to complete the registration process yet.
So
And
the
that's
13 is
number
the
we have.
number of the wait list.
Yep.
So we're if they all come in, we're looking at 176.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Haefele, did you have another
No, I
question? Okay,
apologize.
no problem. We're talking about a total number of maybe 3 to 5 teachers that we would be looking at from the standpoint of a waiver of some of these salary features or time at task kind of features? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Depending on class sizes and
Right.
a couple other factors, we are talking initially about between 3 to 5
So
teachers.
this isn't a huge change, operational change
Right.
in terms
With
of
up to about 7 to 8 when it is
when we're fully operational.
Correct.
Okay. I guess the other item, of course, is there are a number of things in flux, and we can't wait to hear you come in and say, what are the things we've come up with, and you guys have crafted this very carefully. I certainly would be remiss if we didn't give a nod to our colleagues at Ames Community College for making this thing happen, and the city of Greeley for making it possible to get kids from point A to point B in a number of ways. So once again, it's another indication of our efforts and everybody else's in the community to see these things bloom, and we're certainly grateful. Please give our greetings to your colleagues, both in our district and at Ames in this process. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll try a roll call. Ms. Brea?
Mr. DeWitt, will the resolution be read aloud?
Excuse me, is someone, I'm not in position.
I move that the Board of Education of Will County School District 6 adopt the resolution to support the Early College Academy School of Innovation plan as presented.
Would you like
The
me to
resolution.
read
Can we,
the
if someone
resolution?
has a copy of the resolution?
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
resolution to support the Early College Academy School of Innovation plan. Whereas the Board of Education is committed to leading the nation's cities in student achievement, high school graduation, college preparation, and college matriculation. And whereas the Board of Education is committed to improving the quality and effectiveness of each of its schools. And whereas the Board of Education believes that we must develop new, innovative approaches to teaching and learning in our existing and future schools by giving schools more autonomy over the critical areas of personnel, use of time, and use of money, expanding choices and building the capacity for innovation, and holding schools accountable for improving student achievement. And whereas the Innovation Schools Act provides a critical means for schools in the district to accelerate progress towards our goals. And whereas the Board of Education has considered the innovation plan for Early College Academy and found that it meets all expectations of the Innovation Schools Act, including that it is fiscally feasible and that it will not result in lower student performance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the innovation plan as submitted by the Department of Academic Achievement under the Innovation Schools Act. Number 2, the district shall hold Early College Academy accountable on an annual basis for progress towards goals in its innovation plan and their school improvement plan using this District 6 school performance framework, and report that progress to the Board of Education and the Colorado Department of Education. Number 3, the Office of the Chief Academic Officer will be responsible for the continued review and accountability of all instructional elements of the plan, including any academic waivers from the district's curricular policies.
Thanks, Mr. Lydiak. And Ms. Brea, thank you very much for reminding us, for reminding me of the need to spell that specific plan out. Roll call.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much for a lot of work this evening. We didn't get a chance to brag about our little vehicles that we received from Allstate, so we'd like to say certainly thank you for that. We'll be careful drivers. This concludes the meeting this evening. We thank you very much. We're adjourned.